everyone, and welcome to another episode of Indie Hangout. I am Neumatix. You may know of me over on YouTube or over on Twitch if you add an extra X at the end. I am joined today by my lovely co-hosts, Kronos and Maz, on episode number 12. What is going on, guys?
How's it going, everybody? Kronos here. You can find me on YouTube and Twitch at OSOKKronos.
What's going on, guys? Maz from Maztech Gaming. Maztech Gaming over on YouTube. Maztech_gaming over on Twitch. Can you believe it? A dozen episodes in already. What a fast 3 months.
Dude, it went by so quick. It feels like just yesterday we started recording. No, it's awesome, man. Holy cow. It really is like 3 months. It doesn't feel like 3 months, but it's been a lot of fun. We've gotten a lot of good topics under our belt and a lot of good stuff from our listeners to join in on the conversations we've been having. Tonight is going to be no different. Tonight it's going to be a really fun one. I think all three of us are really excited to talk about the subjects that we're going to touch on in this. But before we get into that, we need to talk about something, guys. The game of the month, we missed it. We totally forgot about it. I'm just kidding. We didn't really forget, but
We spaced it, though.
Yeah. It's maybe a month or two. It's okay. It was a lot of fun playing this game. It was a lot of fun getting into it. We had a lot of stuff going on in between, and that's why we waited till now to go over it. But if our listeners remembered, we introduced this, and it was the game called Deliver at All Costs. We're going to go over our takeaways one by one, a little round table. But before we do that, just reminding our listeners, this game was a team studio of 13. The studio was called Far Out. It is called Far Out Games. It was their first project, and it was published by Konami. Insane. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Why don't you want to run with this, Maz? What did you think of the game?
It was all right. Kronos? No, I'm just,
You know what? Yeah, it was good. All right, next.
yeah, it's good. Next.
Yeah, I mean, it was a game.
It was a game.
And you agree? Okay, next subject. No, so I thought it was really good. So the thing is with that game is it starts out, it's very well animated. I mean, Studio Far Out did a great job. I mean, this is their first game, as you had mentioned, new. Published by Konami, really good backing. It's a very polished game. You could tell they had good financial backing. It's very solid. It's very stable. I didn't really run into any bugs or any issues. I don't know if you guys did either, or didn't either. But this was really, really good in terms of graphics. It's the way it handles, the mechanics, the upgradability. The replay value is there. And the replay value is there because there are a lot of other things that you can do other than just follow the storyline. I didn't really spend too much time with that in this particular playthrough, but I plan on going back and messing around with that. But there's a lot of collectibles in it. There's a lot of upgrades that you can purchase and build. One thing is the story it started out very lighthearted. It was more about the mechanics and delivering and everything got crazier. You are delivering fireworks that accidentally go off and you're trying to avoid them exploding around wherever you're going. And then you're delivering a statue where birds are trying to crap on the statue, so they're crapping on you. And at one point, you're even transporting a nuclear bomb across town, and that's like one of those one-hit kill mechanics, which just drove me nuts. Some of those challenges actually were starting to piss me off. I'm not going to lie. But one of those things that happened with the story that I liked and I disliked was it starts out very lighthearted comedy. You're a guy that's out of work. You see a flyer for We Deliver, which is the company that you are going to work for. And you meet Harold, who is the CEO of the company, who's the head of the company at that point. I won't spoil the story, but I'll just say at that point. And there's a lot of comedy to it. Lots of fun shenanigans going on, if you will. There is a competitor named Just in Time, and you spend a good part of that first act trying to stifle the competition. They're going around with a plane, dropping boxes of flyers and marketing collateral and you're going around in your truck and intercepting the boxes of marketing materials, bringing it back to your warehouse manager who will subsequently burn all those flyers. So lots of really funny stuff. But as you progress through the game, and like I said, no spoilers here, people start, the characters in the game, the antagonists that are in the game, and like I said, I'm really trying to be as vague as I can with this. They have some nefarious thoughts. They have some really bad intentions for Winston, who is your character. We find out who Winston really is over time, and the story just kind of takes a turn. It becomes a little bit more governmental. It becomes a little bit more science fiction, but it becomes darker, and that lighthearted comedy element kind of goes away from it as you continue to play through the game. And there's a little bit of dissension in the ranks at We Deliver. There's some takeovers. You meet some really obnoxious people. I'm talking about Bertha. If you have not played the game or you were playing along with us, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the ending is very unresolved. I thought there was some holes at the end, the plot holes with the character arcs. Now, there's a couple different ways we can look at that. It could have been kind of like a rush job. It's like Konami's like, okay, you know what? Let's get going. It's time to make some money. Or they were intentionally leaving it vague so they can leave it open for a sequel. I enjoyed the game. I would get the sequel. So that's my quick little synopsis of the game.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I had a very similar experience with playing this game. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it's kind of arcadey, the way the game plays out, the shenanigans that goes on. It's really funny the types of things you do with, like you're saying, you're traveling with a nuke across, or you're traveling with a fish and you need to feed the fish on the way, or it goes nuts and it's gonna, destroy your truck, and the
Ugh.
guy's going nuts on the inside. It's so weird the things that you come across in the game. It's almost genius because as you progress through the game, it feels like you're always learning some new mechanic that wasn't present that wasn't present before, and it's almost seamless. They don't even really need to tell you put you through a tutorial for each new mechanic you're gonna come across. It's just very seamless, is what I'm trying to say. Like, the fish jumping around in the back of the truck. Well, how do you ease it? You gotta run into these barrels to feed it. Well, that wasn't a thing you had to do before, but it is for this one. And I thought that was really cool because not a lot of games can do that very easily and get away with it, I should say, with introducing new mechanics on the fly. But this game, yeah, does a really good job with that. The story will keep it under wraps, for the listeners and anyone who wants to play the game. But for me, I felt the same way. I almost felt do you guys feel like it was almost a disconnect from the game? Like the game was meant to be super, fun and not too serious, but the story got serious and it was kind of weird. I just felt like it was weird.
I agree. It was after that first act that it kind of started taking a turn.
Yeah.
And by the time you get into that third act, you're not really delivering so much anymore. It's really more the tension between Winston and Donovan.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, it kind of threw me. And like you said, I don't know if at the end, if they were being pushed to like, okay, just finish the game, get it out or whatever. But I don't know. I think they could have maybe gone a different. It's not bad. It's not bad by any means. It's just, I felt there was a bit of a disconnect for me. But all in all, solid game. Very solid game. And I would like to see more from this studio. I would love to see another game just like it or a sequel. That would be really cool. I think this is one of those games that no matter what type of player you are, you're going to enjoy it. It's one of those for me, replayability, I think it will give me time. I mean, give me time. Like if I finish the game a couple months later, maybe I'll pick it back up. I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this game, and it would be refreshing to jump into it again. But nothing like back to back or anything like that, unless you're an achievement hunter, which I mean most of us are. But I don't know. As far as like longevity wise, I felt myself wanting to hop off of it to play other games. So it didn't really hook me entirely. But then again, it wasn't completely a bomb. It didn't completely just fail in my eyes. It was actually a really good game. It's just kind of one of those, it's almost, I don't know what I'm trying to put in words here. It's not It's not like wow, but it's not like oh my god, why did I buy this? It's a good solid middle ground for me. What about you, Kronos?
Well, I didn't play it as much as y'all did. I'll admit that. Because I'll be honest, I was all in on Ruffy. I mean, that game, I was grinding that one pretty good. I
Can't
beat the
say they blame you
story.
there, brother.
I beat it twice now, so I mean,
God damn, dude.
yeah. But I mean, I played some, Deliver at All Costs, and like I did more of the just like kind of driving around, exploring stuff instead of getting too much into the missions. Because I'll be honest with you, the first couple there were some cutscenes that were just like kept dragging on, and I'm like, just hurry up, like I think they went a
Yeah.
little too long with some of them. But like you were saying, the gameplay itself is pretty smooth. Like it was no real glitches. I love the destructibility, like where you can drive through a house and stuff. Like it's just little humors. Or like when you first start the game, it comes in with humor because like it's like, oh yeah, my neighbor lets me borrow his car. He gets in it, starts it up, and like it's just, like they added in a bit of humor there that like backs in through the building, and it's like, oh wait, and
Yeah, he
like
left to the river.
yeah, yeah, like that. Like it started out with a lot of humor. And like so, I was driving around doing a couple missions and then just exploring. And then I think there's an upgrade that I unlocked. It was like the crane and like the hydraulics. That's what it was
Oh yeah.
for the doors. And I probably spent 10 minutes driving around just flinging the doors open, smacking people. I mean, no lie, just driving around, just like, oh hey, like just as far as longevity. I mean, like I said, as long as if they came out with new stuff to help the game, keep adding in new things to do. Because, like I said, there's only so many ways you can do a certain mission. Sure, yeah, like let's try it this way, let's try it that way, but okay, hey, well, there's option A and option B. There's not really an option C. But if you add in new missions and new like areas and stuff, I could see it, carrying on and getting better and better. I mean, they could go back and add in new stuff to the entire story. Like, hey, as you're playing, like this new stuff unlocks then, and you can try it out with that instead. I'd personally say overall, I mean, it's a solid game. I'll kind of like you said, new. I don't think I'll be coming back like replay after replay, but like it's like, oh, I want to kind of just chill out and play a game. I'm gonna jump on Deliver at All Costs. It's just
Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, it's one of those kind of like mindless games. You just jump in for fun. It's not something you take serious. It's not an RPG where you got to make sure you get your skill tree set so that you don't get screwed on the next boss battle, or whatever. So it's a nice, chill game to kind of almost like I said, it's almost teetering on the point of arcade style. Kind of reminds me of that being in the arcade playing games sort of like this with these mechanics in place. Yeah, all in all, not bad. But I think it'd be good for our listeners too. Let us know over in the Discord. If you haven't joined our Discord, be sure to. We're going to leave a link for that in the About section for wherever you're hearing this podcast. And let us know what you thought of the game. But all right, so I think it'll be good for us to go ahead and rate the game. What are we feeling? I will go ahead and go first. I'm going to give it a B. Give it a B for our listeners. We're going off the scale FDCBAS. It's not terrible, but it's not great. I think, almost middle, a little above middle ground. I give it a B on my end. What about you, Kronos?
so. I'm gonna try and be fair because, like I said, I didn't get to play it a whole lot, but I did do some exploring and had a lot of fun. And based off of that, I'm gonna give it a B also.
I was really, really excited about this game. I was kind of in the same boat as new. Something that you said, and one thing that I did not mention. I was playing this last weekend, waiting for my stream to start. And I caught myself looking at my watch a little bit more than I care to admit when it comes to playing a game. Almost like, kind of waiting. And actually, Yemi the Ferret mentioned that when he was talking about he was playing Ruffy in the Riverside, which also released the same day that Death Stranding 2 came out. And so what he did was he started installing Death Stranding 2 and was playing Ruffy. And so he feels like kind of the way we feel about this game as he felt about Ruffy. And he said it was almost like when Death Stranding 2 was done installing, it was almost like, finally. He's like he was waiting to get off of the game. And I kind of felt that way a little bit. When you're checking your watch a lot when you're playing a game, it's probably not the best experience you could possibly have, right?
Right.
And so I was really, really, really high on this game when it first came out. I did a indie game showcase on it for my channel. I loved how fun and quirky it was at first. I actually was okay with how dark it was starting to get, but it just wasn't the same game by the end. Believe it or not, I'm giving it a C.
Wow. I did not expect that.
I was high on it, but
Damn.
I feel like it bottomed out at the end there. The story really kind of felt unfinished. There were unanswered questions, unresolved conflicts. I really hope, and maybe we revisit this and I give it a B or an A if they come out with a sequel and they tie it all up.
Right.
But right now I gotta be at C.
All right. I like it, man. I think that's awesome. Very good. Listeners, be sure to, like I said, in our Discord, let us know what you're ranking the game so that we can all have a bit of a discussion about it. And if you felt the same way, I know, Maz, dude, yeah, I mean, honestly, feeling the same way. Like, it's one of those, it's funny to put it this way, but it's like a game you play as a time waster in order to waste some time for whatever it may be. Maybe you're waiting for a download of a game, or just in something else that you're waiting for to get on that you're actually excited for. Not saying that this game isn't exciting in itself, but yeah, if you catch yourself watching the clock while you're playing the game instead of like fully diving into it, yeah, I mean that says something, you know? So but yeah, I mean, honestly, like I said, before we get off this and on into the next section, I think it's really awesome to see a game like this come out of a studio that's brand new, that it's their first title release under a publisher like Konami. I mean, honestly, that's wow. Holy crap. But all right, awesome. Good stuff. You know, and I think we should definitely let our listeners know that the game of the month is going to be changing. So, as content creators and as a game dev, we are doing a lot. We have a lot on our plates. We're constantly trying to get some new content out to you guys, find the latest, greatest games. We're talking to devs nonstop. I've been working on my game nonstop, but we all got stuff going on. And I think to best suit our listeners, we're going to go ahead and change it to Game of the Quarter. So, we have a little bit more time to get a game to you guys so we can all play it together and we all have time to really give it 100% and possibly even beat some of the games that we're going to be coming out with and, well, sharing with you guys to play with us. So, but we will go ahead and let you know in the coming episodes of the next game that we will all be playing together.
So, speaking on the terms of game review, since we're still in that area, what do you guys say we go back and give Ruffy a view, since that was technically the first big game for our podcast?
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm not going first though.
I mean, we can't leave out the little guy. I mean,
I'm prepared to talk about that. Absolutely.
Okay.
Good old Ruffy. I heard he's from Riverside.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Heard it.
I heard it here.
Took
I
me a
heard
while
from
to
the
figure
dev.
out he was a bear.
You know, I think that when we spoke with Patrick a couple weeks ago, he kind of left that open ended. Like, is it a bear or is it really an Ewok? Everybody say it's an Ewok. So is it? I mean, why not? I mean, I think he looks more like an Ewok than he does a bear, but that's cool.
Especially with all the Star Wars references for the Easter eggs he's got in that.
That was pretty good.
100%.
Alrighty, so, who wants to go first on this review?
Take it away, brother.
All you, Kronos.
So, touching back on Ruffy, as far as replay value, I've played it through multiple times, I will say, and I'm still, thinking about going again and trying to do speed runs and stuff. So it's a solid game. I mean, I love the graphics. I love the little cheesy, Easter eggs from Star Wars and other stuff that they added in. And I'm gonna give it an A. It's not exactly an S because it's not that complete wow factor. There's a lot of things that me personally, I would have been I think this could have been done differently. But I will say it's a solid game. It's a creative touch on a new idea, and it worked very well for them right off the bat. So I'm giving it an A.
Nice. You know what? Why not? I'll go next. I don't know. You guys, I'll be honest to our listeners. The three of us playing this game, I know Kronos and Maz got way more playtime than I did. It just didn't hit right with me. I don't know what it was. It's a good game. There's nothing wrong with it. It did really well. And the mechanics were done really well. The art is amazing. There's so much good about it. It's just, I don't know. It's something that reminds me of a Mario game. And I think I would have liked it more maybe if it was co-op or multiplayer. And not multiplayer within playing with 5 people. I'm just talking about 1 to maybe 3 other people. I think it'd be a lot more fun. Maybe it wouldn't make sense for the game. Who's to say? Only the developer, maybe. Maybe I mean, I guess the gamers too. When they're playing through it, they can kind of get a feel of if that would even work. But I don't know. Literally, you know that you see that line right in between C and B. I'm right there. I'm right there. I think I'll give it a B because of how well it's done and the art, and it's just. But I would honestly, fellas, if it gave a mode of co-op to where I could play it with my wife and how we usually play any Mario game. We'd sit down and play co-op together and beat the game together. That was so much fun. If I could do that with this game, I'd probably give it an S tier. I'll be completely honest with you. I'd actually want to play it. I'd actually want to beat it, but it's not there, so it's a B for me. Yeah, yeah. But like I said, it's a good game. What about you, Maz?
This is in my game of the year conversation. I thought that was really well done. And I'm the first one to tell you guys when early on in one of our episodes, I mentioned, hey, there's this game coming out, Roughing the Riverside. Yeah, whatever. Not really something that's not really my style. I mean, I was wrong. I thought it was a lot of fun. But I'm a big puzzle person. Lots of riddles in this game. Lots of puzzles, collectibles, hidden items, toys, like hidden characters, which is cool. Hidden moths. I mean, a lot of people calling it butterflies. They're moths, right? I mean, they're moths. I love the swap mechanic. That's just something that's completely different from anything that I've ever seen before. And I thought that was really, really cool. That swap mechanic kind of was no pun intended, a game changer for me. I think that it was great when we spoke with Patrick that it was inspired by games like Banjo-Kazooie, inspired by games like Paper Mario, Mario 64, but Ocarina of Time. But on top of all that, it was its own game. It was its own unique style of game. And I think they pulled that off with the swap mechanic, their own characters. I love that they added and incorporated the Star Wars references. Some of them were blatant, some of them were really subtle. This game got an A for me. I mean, it's going to be really difficult to get an S out of me. But it is definitely in my 2025 Game of the Year conversation at this point. So, an A.
Nice. Very good. Very good stuff. Definitely, as with this one too, if you are in the Discord, go ahead and leave a rating for Ruffy in the Riverside as well. We'd love to see your rating, and we'd love to see your reasonings why. For both these games, Ruffy in the Riverside and Deliver at All Costs, I think this is a really good thing to continue forward with. Our game of the quarter and games that we play from devs, it'd be a really good way of also, I guess, critiquing the games in a positive manner as well. And obviously, because when we give a rating, we're giving really good feedback of why. So, all right. Good stuff, guys. On to the next section. Getting into the nitty gritty here. We want to talk about indie games, and we want to talk about them maybe being a bit too ambitious. So, this was actually something brought up by Maz. We were talking about it in Discord, and just out of a lot of the games that we've been playing, and we're seeing a lot more indie games come out that are looking very, very polished, very nice, almost rivaling those games of AAA or AA. So I want to go and bring this question to the table for each of us. What do we think defines a game as big or polished or a game that rivals AAA or AA? Like, what game automatically comes to mind when you're thinking indie? Or is there something, or if you're looking at a game and let's say you're not even in the headspace of indie, AA, AAA. If you're looking at a game in your mind, what is that wow factor? You go, holy crap, this game's amazing. This get like the polish. So, is it the open world? Is it multiple levels? I mean, we could go many ways with this, and this may be a bit too vague of a question, but let me know if it is. What's that wow factor? Like for you, Matt, specifically, bringing it up, what was a game that you went, wow, these guys are really reaching for the stars here?
There's a couple of them, right? I mean, I'm creating my own drinking game by mentioning No Man's Sky again, right? But that is, and they're I mean, let's face fact, they're a AA studio at this point, correct? But they were indie when they came out with No Man's Sky, and At first, not great. They fixed it. We know the story. I'm not going to get back into that. But those updates, that game has been. I mean, if you didn't know the difference, there were indie developers like that versus AA versus AAA. I don't think a lot of people would have known that really an indie game to start off. And then you see some new ones, and I haven't played this one yet, but you have new. So with Claire Obscure Expedition 33, that came out the same date that Oblivion came out, and it was fine. It's really funny. The all-time peak on Steam, it came out in April, a month later after it really took off. 145,000 players at once for an indie game. And at the time of this recording, guys, 16,513 players are playing Expedition 33 as we speak right now on Steam.
Yeah, and you know, one of those is my wife right now.
There you go. Exactly. There you go.
Yep.
I love that. All-time peak, 161,000 players at once, which is just absolutely insane. Estimated 3.87 million copies have been sold since its release. This is ambitious.
Dude, that's, I mean, crazy. You think it, because like I think we talked about it before, that's 20, it's like 27 or 28 people made that game.
It's incredible what we can do with these smaller, ambitious games.
Honestly, though, I think that's a very good point. You know, games like Claire Obscure, games like No Man's Sky, these indie companies or indie devs that are coming out with these games that rival those of AA and AAA. These two are definite standouts. And it's funny you mentioned that because I was going to mention Claire Obscure. I mean, some people would argue that it's a AA studio, but regardless, it looks like a AAA game. I mean, if you are someone outside the scope of what we look at, if you're just a regular gamer like my wife, she'll look at this game and there's no way she would even look at it and be like, oh yeah, you could tell a small studio made it. That's not even a thing in her head. She's like, wow, this is a really like good looking game. It's really nice. It's big. It's polished. It's something that caught her attention, and that's saying something. She's like, so a game has to really have a really good story, some really good mechanics to catch the attention of a lot of gamers, including my wife, in order to get them into it. So no doubt of why is as successful as it is. You know, obviously the numbers sell everything right there with how many people are playing it, how many copies are sold. Are there any that pop on your head, Kronos?
Yeah, there was one. I was playing it a while back. I haven't played it here lately, but it was the survival machine. I mean, it was kind of a simple mechanic. It was like a base builder survival, but like it was a pretty big open world game. And I was like, you wouldn't think it would be a small little studio of just a couple friends making that type of stuff. Because like it's, I mean, I think it says we were like maybe 15% through a complete run through, and like we were playing for hours, and like that's a lot of time to be playing to only be that far into it, and it just be a little indie game. And it's just crazy like how much they're pushing the limits of like, okay, hey, we can fit all this into our game, we just got to do it. And like, they're branching out, they're trying bigger and better things, and it's really starting to bridge the gap between indie and AA, AAA.
Nice. No, that's a perfect example, man. There's so many different things that can be a defining thing for a game to be seen as really big. But honestly, I think it really comes down to how well it hits the player, where it's the mechanics, the story, whatever it may be in that manner that really gets the person going like, wow. Like if it's done really well at the little itty bitty things throughout the game that the developer paid really close attention to, and the player can jump in it and they notice that is huge, you know? And I think what helps with that is the advancement all and the game engines that are out there. So, we got Unreal Engine, you have Unity, you got Godot, RPG Maker. There's plenty of other ones out there too. You even have little ones like Pico 8, Erlenspiel, two tiny little game engines to make tiny little games, and they're a lot of fun to mess with. If anyone who wants to just jump into some little game dev stuff, those are Pico 8 and Perlenspiel. If Perlenspiel is still around, I have to check on that. But these game engines in general are allowing so many developers to make their games look like AA and AAA with all the tools that are available to you. You got high quality things that are coming out. Like we had spoken before, where me, Kronos, and Maz, I should say, is that we've spoken about Unreal and just stating that, like, if you see a game that was made in Unreal, you could almost just by looking at the game being like, yeah, that was made in Unreal. It's stated to Maz and Kronos earlier before we started recording is that it's almost like it seems it's shiny, catches your eye. It's so much polished that it's just but you're just drawn to it.
Shiny.
Yeah.
I think that comes back to just like our natural, almost like being a gamer. Because I mean, yeah, we're like we like the innovative, fun stuff, the wacky stuff. But at the same time, if a game looks really good, it's gonna draw our attention. Like it to me, it's just it don't matter what game it is. Like if it's like like I'm not a big sports game player, but like even the new NBA's, it's like the sweat rolling off of the characters and stuff. It's like that is just crazy. Like it draws you in. It's like so much detail and so polished that it draws your interest, it gets you excited for it, and then sometimes it turns out to be a really good game.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that, man. Those little details I was talking about before. These tiny little details that when the developer pays attention to put those into the game, the player pays attention and like it's like those stupid little things. I think I've told you guys about this before, is that Cog, one of my followers, we were playing a game before, and I think I had mentioned, I think it was Realm Royale before that game died. Like, he just stopped and looked at a flower, and he sees ants crawling on a flower, and he's like, "You see this? You see this? Quality right there." They knew someone like me was gonna see that. So it's so weird, but it is such a big factor. And I think these advancements in the game engines allow, and not only that, but if a developer pays enough attention, if they really, really pay attention, and they're not trying to make a quick buck, right? And they're trying to, in a way, emulate their favorite AAAs. Those little things they remember and they try to put into their game, which makes their game even better, which makes their game rival the big wigs.
I agree. I got another example of that too. There is a developer who I thought was really cool. This developer is out of India. They go by the name Mustang Developer, and they are creating a game. They are developing a game right now. It's one that I was going to showcase, and I gave the developer some feedback. I mean, it's constructive criticism. It wasn't, the game was a little bit too short, a little bit too empty for a demo, but it was more the reason why they did that was kind of just show off what the kind of ambition is going to be, and the game is going to be bigger than it actually shows in the demo. I'm really looking forward to it. But one thing that really stood out with that game was called Blinding Oversight, okay? This game was really, really good looking. You start out and all the graphics are blurry, and you go to read something, and the first thing that your inner thoughts say on the screen is, "If only I had my glasses." And I'm like, okay, that's really interesting right off the bat. When you find the glasses, you go downstairs, you eventually find your glasses. You've got those God rays coming through, like rays of sunlight coming through the windows, and little tiny particles of dusts. And the thing is, they're not like stationary. They're not like static. They are slowly floating around, and it is randomized. And I mentioned that to the developer, and the developer's like, "Yeah, I worked really, really hard on that. That's something I'm particularly proud of." So these developers, they like to hear and like they like to know that you're picking up on things like that. And it's little tiny things like that that do, to your point, New, rival these AA and AAA studios.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it is really something big for a developer. And even speaking absolutely from, you said his he goes by the name of Mustang.
Mustang.
Mustang. Yeah. So he probably is in the same headspace as me when you're making your game and you spend hours figuring out how to make those God rays shine through the window or through the blinds up on the floor. Like that's something special to you. That's something that you really do hope the player notices, because it's almost all too often sometimes when a game releases and it does have those really nice things in it that you can have players that just don't care. They just run right past it. Maybe subconsciously they're like, subconsciously they love those little things, and subconsciously they would notice if it wasn't there. They'd be like, "Oh, something's off." But to have it just pointed out is so gratifying.
100%. You know those volumetric god rays? Those are like the volumetric lighting. Those are the little tiny things graphically that attract people. Like what you were saying, Kronos. If it looks good, it just looks good. And I'm a graphics hound. I mean, that's the first thing that I'm looking at is graphics across the board. I'm big on story, but if your game is not good looking, you're gonna lose me very quickly. And like I've said in past episodes, that's probably not a good quality to have. But at the same time, it's the God's honest truth.
Yeah, I think we're all that way a bit. But I think it's almost like if your game comes out and it doesn't have good graphics, like it's almost on I might bite my tongue on this, but no, it is. It's almost on the developer with how many tools are out there to allow you to make your game look good, even if it's 2D. Now, on the other side, we've talked about art and everything like that. Like, I think there are an amazing amount of 2D games out there that are great in their own right artistically and the way they look. You can definitely tell the difference between 2D and 3D, and you can kind of separate them in how and love one for what it is and love the other for what it is. And they both rival each other that way. It's something that can't be duplicated from 2D to 3D or 3D to 2D, which is really unique in itself. But all these game engines, man, they give the developers the tools to make this happen now. It's so much easier to jump in and mess around with the lighting and baking in shadows and everything like that to where, before it might have been a nightmare, before Unity was around and before Unreal Engine was around, at least to the public. And I think what helps even more now is adding in on this, right? Adding in on the tools that are allotted for the developers is also the other set of tools that developers can use, which is crowdfunding from platforms like Kickstarter, we've talked about, and Patreon. They can have their ambitious product projects put out on these platforms and they could get funding for it. This is something that may not have been possible, 8, 10 years ago, or whatever it may be, when everyone was jumping onto these. Now it's more of a common thing, I think, for developers to go on here and try and get their game kickstarted or put their stuff up on social media or be a content creator to get their stuff seen and then have people go to the Patreon to help fund it. That allows so much more for the developer to do more. If you have more money to do things with, guess what? You can hire a specialized, talented artist. You can hire a guy who is really good at coding card games. Whatever it may be, there's so much out there for developers to take advantage of in order to make their games rival AA and AAA.
Another thing that kind of adds on to that too is we've talked about it in prior episodes, like as far as like how Maz was saying with the rays of light coming through and the dust particles. They're indie games. Indie devs can take that risk. They can, try things.
Yeah. They have the opportunity to jump in and try new things that or just be risky in and of itself compared to, most AAA studios and some AA.
I think this ties it back to the initial question. Are indies being too ambitious? And well, let's go around real quick. I mean, I'm going to say no. What they're doing is working. They're sticking it to AA and AAA developers, studios, because they're being innovative. It might seem like they're being really ambitious because they are being ambitious. So these indie developers, they know that these AA and AAA studios, they're sticking with tried and true. We've talked about this before in episodes past when we talked about genre fusion in previous episodes. These other larger studios, they're not doing that as much as indie developers are willing to do. And the nice thing is when an indie developer is an indie developer, they don't have the constraints or the interventions that a lot of these developers get when they have these big time publishers. So no, I don't think that indies are being too ambitious. I think they're just getting started, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'll go along with that. I mean, yeah, tying it back, like you said, straight to the question, are indies being too ambitious? No, I don't think so. I think indies are just using the tools that are out there for them to use to make their games just as good, just as big as AA and AAAs. I think that's all it is. You know, there's plenty of indie developers out there. Like I said, they're using platforms like Kickstarter and Patreon to help fund their games if they don't have the means themselves to get a big time artist or coder or whatever it may be on their game. They're using these engines and taking advantage of all the tools that come with it, even using assets if they have to make it work. There's so much out there for an indie dev nowadays to use to make their game look good that it's only a matter of time before it's just the norm. And we're seeing it now where it's just the norm where these games are coming out and looking super polished. And I still go back to saying that I don't think it matters if it's a 2D game or a 3D game. You can have a 2D game that can rival AAA and you can have and vice versa. I mean, it doesn't matter. I think they're all good in their own right and these devs are using the tools they need to make them that way.
Me personally, I think, I agree with y'all too. They're not being too ambitious. If anything, I think they're pushing the bar. As we've said in prior episodes, these big AAA studios, they're so set in their ways now that they're just gonna rinse, wash, and repeat. And it's, let's go back to, say the Xbox 360, PS2, 3 days. Gaming was like, it was always pushing the bar, even from AAA studios. Like, they were like, hey, what can we do to change this? How big can we go with this? And like, that produced some of the best games I've ever seen. And like, indies are starting to do that more and more. It's almost like the indie games are starting to compete with each other. Like, hey, y'all push the bar here, we're going to push the bar there. And it's like, they're pushing each other to start making bigger and better games just to try and be that standout title, even among AA and AAA titles themselves also.
Absolutely, dude. Man, I love it. Such good conversations out of this. Yeah, so if you guys want to jump into the conversation on this segment, be sure to over in our Discord. Let us know what you think. Are indie games being too ambitious or are they going in the right direction, as Chrono's saying? Are they just pushing the bar in the right direction? You know? I think we'd all love to hear it.
I gotta say, when you leave it open ended for the listeners like that, it just provokes more conversation, right? It just
Yeah.
provokes more conversation. And I maintain, and I'm going to reiterate what I said. I really honestly feel like these indie developers are getting these larger companies in a chokehold here. Not that it's like a one on, it's not big versus little, but I mean, it kind of is David versus Goliath. I mean, we've talked about it in the past. How many times have we seen these indie game developers go back 15, 16 years, 2009, when it really started showing up on Xbox? They had dev kits out there for the Xbox, almost like an open source type mentality back in your Major Nelson days. Xbox Live Family, that kind of thing, if I'm dating myself now. But the thing is, how long has it taken for these indie games to be these indie developers rather, to be taken seriously? And here we are, and now the tide's being turned because they're one-upping these larger AA, AAA companies that are tied down to the roadmap that's put in front of them. Do this. Well, I got a good idea do this. And that's why a lot of them go on their own. That's why you're on your own there, Neumatix. I know your story. There's no debating over creative. There's no debating over story. There's no debating on angle or where you want to take the game. It's freedom. And freedom is creating ambition, and ambition is creating success.
Yeah, I mean, that's, a big part of it. I mean, it's funny you mention a lot of this too, right? It's so like the David versus Goliath kind of deal. It's like, could you imagine a AAA studio looking at a game like Undertale and going, how in the hell did this one guy create this game? Toby Fox made this game that sold over 6.3 million copies, and his whole ideal for it was make it look crappy. He went completely against the grain. Dude, there's literally a point in his dev logs and all that. Someone went and, snippet throughout all the stuff. And when he was trying to make the game before it was even out, and there was something about like one of the skeleton dudes or whatever. And it's like, it had a little note by it and it goes, redo doesn't look crappy enough. Could you imagine a AAA game company saying something? They would never. No, it has to be better. That's not
Right.
good enough. The pixel is off. that is terrible. Redo it or you're fired. You know, I'm probably exaggerating here, but it still goes
Uh,
to show. It still goes to show, dude. Like how these little indie developers are just changing the game in its entirety.
you say that's a bit much, but when you said that, fix it or you're fired, I immediately thought, yay, Activision, Ubisoft. I mean, it's just like right off the bat, it was like knee jerk. And I'm not trying to be an ass to these companies, but it's all about the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's about the bottom line more than it's about the consumer. This is why we're talking $70 versus $80 games. Different conversation for a different time. But the end game between these developers, these indie developers, and these large studios, they're different focuses. You know, a lot of these indie developers, they don't care if they make $1 million off of this. They're doing what they want to do. At some point, they're going to want to. You don't care if you make $10 million off of your game. It's a passion project. It's coming from love. And it's like sports as well. You've got these younger basketball players or football players. What's the first thing that they want to do? They want to make money. And as they get older, what do they want to do? They want a championship. They want a title. And so they go through the motions. They want to get their payday. But then at the end of the day, what's the real reason you got into it? For the love of the game. And the best way to, the best compensation you can get for any type of love of any sport as a pro athlete or a collegiate athlete is to win a championship. Am I right?
Yeah.
So it's all about priorities at that point. A lot of these indie developers are about the passion. I want to make my story come to life. I want my dream to come true. And then you've got these double and triple A companies that are just make us money. Make us money.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Cool. I think that ends that segment. All right. On that note, we're going to go ahead and go to a quick ad break. And when we get back, we're going to get into a spicy subject for us and our listeners. It's going to be on AI and how it's affecting the indie devs right after this. Hey, Indie Hangout crew, loving the show? Help us spread the word by dropping a quick 5-star rating or review wherever you might be listening to this podcast. It takes just a second and helps more than you know. Thanks for being awesome. Now, back to the show. And welcome back to the Indie Hangout podcast with me, Neumatix, OSOKKronos, and Maztec Gaming. So we've had a lot of fun jumping into our game of the month. We've had a lot of fun talking about games in general with indie devs pushing the bar, being a bit ambitious, creating games that rival AAA, AA. Now let's get into something a bit heavier. Something that can really trigger someone. And I mean, really trigger some people when it comes to gaming and in other forms of entertainment, but we'll get into that. It is AI. We got so many different forms of AI coming in that it's almost hard to keep up with. But there's this segment I wanted to have a good discussion about. Is AI going to be a problem for indie devs and gamers? We have, like I said, AI is emerging and becoming a big deal, being used in many forms of entertainment. And, you know, like I said, gaming's no stranger at this point. So a question real quick before we really just jump into this. How does how does each of us feel about a game using AI? Indie or not? Just in general, across the board. What do you think, Kronos?
I was gonna say I'll take this one first if I can.
Yeah, go for it.
So I have mixed feelings about this, and I've ever since it started becoming a bigger thing. I'm not against it, but I'm not 100% for it either. I want to see a good so a lot of your games, let's say like off in the distance, like they sit like a background off in the background, like you can't reach it, but it's there, you can see it. I'm okay with that type of stuff being like AI generated, or like certain items and stuff maybe using AI generation, but like for the most part, I want the game to feel like it was somebody's passion put into it. Like that's back to what we was talking about with graphics and stuff. Like you can tell the difference between like something that's hand drawn and something that's just AI created. It feels like it's not passion in it if it's everything is just AI.
Yeah, I'll take this one next, right after you, Kronos here. So I feel the same way, man. A bit wishy washy, and I don't know if this is like a general thing across many different people that are gamers, developers, whatever it may be. So being a developer and hearing about these different types of AI come out and how potentially different devs using AI to, whatever it may be, help them along in their game. It's scary. I'll tell you that. It's real scary because I remember being on X and I saw there was a video of someone saying that they gave a prompt to some AI. I don't know which one it was. And it was pretty much under these circumstances, this, like it gave it the rules and it said, make this game. And it did pretty damn good. Like it was scary good to the point, like good for AI, like almost like, as someone who just started out learning the ropes is kind of what it looked like. Someone put through something together real quick, but it was something that worked. It was something that was playable. And I think that's scary because, you could be wishy-washy right now, but when does it come to a point where it's all in or not? You're going to have these games that are fully created by AI. I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think people are going to allow it to happen. Gamers in general, just like you said, Kronos, like there's a fine line to where if some AI is used to create like a backdrop or if it was used to help something minor in the game, but it was maybe taken and created into something of their own creation, almost like a placeholder, right? I don't have a problem with that. I don't think there's a problem with using something as a placeholder or even using it a little bit, but it's when you start getting heavy into it where you're using it for everything. I think that's just lazy. And I think that's just, as we've all said, indie devs love to create their games. Speaking for myself, I'm a very it's a passion project. Well, how passionate can you be about your game if it's all AI driven? Then you're just in my head, it makes you just the idea man. And I don't think that, but in general, I don't know. It's such a touchy subject, guys. Any or not in games, it's not going to stop me if it's very, very seldomly used in a game and the game is good. It's not going to stop me from playing it, and I don't mind it that much. It's just when you could tell it was just blatantly done in a lazy manner, it's when I'm going to say nah. And I think that's where a lot of people are going to say no. What about you, Maz?
I don't think any of this matters. I think as we go further into the 21st century, one thing that people need to understand, you either love AI, you take it or leave it, or you hate it. But there's one thing that's certain. It's here to stay. It's only going to improve. So the ones that the ones that say, "Oh, I will never play a game that has AI in it," you're going to retire from playing games someday. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. There's always going to be a touch of AI somewhere, especially as it improves. It depends on, and to your point, how egregious it's used in games. So I just recently started a new series on my YouTube channel called Small Indie Sunday. One thing that I've been doing my indie game showcases, as you guys know. And I think that I've been a little bit lenient on my critique of some of these games because, I talk to the developers, I like them, and it's easy to be like, oh yeah, good job. Well, Small Indie Sunday has kind of given me a little bit more of an eye-opener. These are games that are $10 or less. And one of the games that I played this past Sunday, it's once a month, the first Sunday of each month, I played 4 games during this stream. The first one was Card Rotini. It's a new game that just came out recently. It was given to me by the developer, and it's a digital card battler game. It's inspired by Italian brain rot. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. I wasn't really familiar with it until somebody in my stream was like, "Oh, this Italian brain rot, blah, blah, blah." And I didn't know what it was, so I started looking it up, and it's honestly really stupid stuff. So this game is designed using AI images, using the Italian brain rot trend. So it's AI generated characters and they have different names like Ballerina Cappuccina and Tung 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 Sahur. It's like really stupid names. It was one of the worst games that I've played in a long, long time. I mean, and even still, believe it or not, sidebar, even though that was one of the worst games I've ever played, at least in the last 5 years, it was still the second worst game that I played that day. So figure that one out.
God damn.
It was terrible, yes. But these are the types of AI games, Card Rotini, that I think people have a problem with. It's that passion project that you were talking about, New. There's no soul to these games if it's just done by AI. But here's the thing. Moving forward, and it's going to get worse year after year after year after year after year. There's going to be AI in every game at some point. And Thomas Brush mentioned it in a post on X just recently. And a lot of people use AI right now to help with their coding. You can't leave it to do it on its own because a lot of the coding could be incoherent or nonsensical and cause bugs. But as you were talking about, new placeholders, ways to tighten up code as you are coding. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying here about Thomas Brush and his posts is you have to know how to code in order to use an AI coder, because what it's going to do is it's going to crush it for you at the beginning if you know how to code. It will crush it for you in the middle of your coding and at the end if you know how to code. If you do not know how to code and you are using AI, it's going to crush it for you right off the bat. And then it's going to destroy your learning curve as you're trying to grow. And it's going to slow you way down. So I think that's really, really important to take into consideration, that let's not use the AI just to build these soulless games. Guess what we're going to get out of that, guys? We're going to get a lot of shovelware out of that. So we got to be really, really careful with how we're using our AI. But it's always going to play a part somewhere, somehow, moving forward.
Yeah, dude, 100% on that. Love Thomas Brush. I always watch a lot of his stuff. Been listening to him for a while now. And he's someone that had mentioned this too. He mentions it to a lot of the indie devs that he talks to. Is like, are you afraid of like AI and what potential things that are come out of it? But dude, honestly, 100%, like I am no stranger. I've used AI in order to help me get past a block of code that I'm like, I have no idea what the hell to do with this. How do I get past this? And that's the difference. You can use it to help you. That's one of the greatest things for AI, is that it can help a developer get through some. It's another tool for them to use. But if you're using it just to be like, I'm just gonna copy paste everything, copy paste, then you are gonna run into trouble, because if you don't know how to code and you're using AI to code something for you, and then something goes wrong in your game and you're trying to go through and you're like, oh my God, why is it not working? You don't know how to read your code, so you can't figure it out. You don't even know what the right questions to ask AI in order to figure it out for you. So you just threw yourself into a hole, into a dead project. That's the problem. The thing that's great though is that for the devs that use it correctly, they can use it to help them develop better. They can use it to help them code better. They can use it to help them make their code cleaner. You know, you can know how to code, but any developer is going to tell you that they have their own unique style of coding. And in order to make it like they always say like there's no wrong way, but there is sometimes a more efficient way. So if you can have AI help you make it more efficient, that's going to make you a better developer. I think that's where it's a strong point. It's very good. It's a very good tool to use for that. But as we said, like, there's that fine line. You got people that are going to use it to actually help. And dude, AI can be used to help teach you. Like, really, if you want to sit down, you're like, I have no idea how to code in C sharp, but I want to start learning. Jump on ChatGPT, jump on Grok, jump on whatever AI that suits you, and just start asking questions. Hey, what can I do to help teach myself this? Can you help teach me? And jump into Unity, jump into Unreal Engine. And like, I use Grok all the time. So go on to Grok and be like, hey, I'm jumping into Unity for the first time. Can you help me write my first script of code? It all starts with using it in the correct manner for a good purpose.
I use Grok as well, bro. It's so intuitive.
I love it. I love it.
You guys are ridiculous. AI, embrace it.
Yeah.
It's here to stay.
We're not going anywhere.
And sorry if I'm talking too much, guys, but it's just such a good subject to get on.
No, not at all. This is perfect.
And so my next thing is, before we start, because I want to get into the question of the pod and the polls, because this is everything. Both of those have a lot to do with what we were talking about tonight, especially with AI. And we got a lot of discussion points from people in the Discord. And, one of those things is I was thinking about it today, and think about, let's just another medium of entertainment, movies. When movies were first being made, you had your own stunt. You had your own people. You had your actors that did their own stunts, even if they're stunt doubles. You had to recreate things on set. And all of a sudden, technology starts coming in and you got CGI. And I feel like AI today is just the amped up version of CGI and technology back then. Where I'm sure back then, maybe people were like, oh, what is this CGI crap? I'm not watching a movie with this garbage in it. You can totally tell it's fake, looks like trash, and I feel like a lot of people are doing that with AI right now. It's like, oh, what is AI in this game? It looks terrible. You could tell it's AI. That's trash. And I just find myself finding a very similar comparison to one and the other, and how CGI has become more of an adopted thing, where it's no stranger that it's almost in every movie out there, and no one cares. It makes the movie better in many ways. And I think, as you put, Maz, AI is here to stay, and it's just going to make the games better in the long run.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it just makes sense that it's the next step, right? Just like the next technological advance, we don't know what that is next. But I mean, when we had CG come out, we didn't know that AI was going to be. I mean, we always knew it was because of like Terminator and that kind of crap.
Right.
But we didn't know when that was coming out or how it was going to look. And it's very, very dumb. I mean, it's gotten better in the last year. But when they first came out, I mean, you see these videos all the time. It's like, really? It just like doesn't even look real. And you could tell when pictures or videos are AI generated for sure, but that will go away in time. Just like it's kind of like the opposite sidebar with CGI. CGI when it came out was so good, and I think it looks more fake now.
Yeah, dude.
I really do. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's some videos out there on YouTube as to why they look different. I just don't recall what it was because I had to look it up once. But I will say that I don't think that's the direction it's going to go with AI. AI is going to continue to improve.
I think it's kind of me personally. I think it's back to what I said earlier about the like good and bad execution with AI, just like CGI. Because if you think about it, like there are some newer movies that have amazing CGI in them. Just like, I mean, in this past decade, I guess you could say, you got the Transformers movies. That's some of the best CGI like I've ever seen. I mean, it won Transformers 2, I think, won a reward for the CGI that Devastator robot, like climbing the pyramid. But then you have, example, the newest Fast and the Furious, where he's backing a Dodge Charger down a set of steps, and it looks like somebody dropped a Matchbox car. It looked horrible. Have y'all seen the new Fast X?
No.
There is a
No,
scene
man, I was
where
done after one.
there was a scene where he backs down the steps, and like the car is just like a block, just bouncing down these steps. It doesn't even look real. Like it's all it's CGI, and I'm like, it looks horrible. But then there's other movies I've seen that it looks amazing in newer movies. It's like that is some awesome CGI, and I think it's gonna be the same way with AI. It's all on how people use it. Like if they use it properly and use it for the right stuff, it's gonna look good. It's gonna work good. But if they use it poorly, it's gonna be like, yeah, this is just crap. It's all AI. It looks fake. It doesn't look. I'm not gonna keep sitting here playing this.
I think I'll add in, and uh, uh, to speak on it again as just a really great tool if used properly. Here's another example. You know how when we play these indie games, I've boasted a lot about indie games that are coming out that are hand drawn. We've talked about Cuphead, we've talked about oh my gosh, Artist Impact. I almost said Genshin Impact. Oh, but we have these games that are almost, it's like what, playing it like for Artist Impact, I'm like, wow. Can you guys believe this is hand drawn? Like, it's just so much more appreciation for it. And I think that's what's going to happen too. It's like, you're going to have a lot of games coming out that have a lot of AI, driven things, by using it as a tool to make the game better in such ways. But when you come across a game in the future here, even 5 years from now, where AI wasn't used at all, you're going to I think it's going to be one of those moments where a gamer will look at that, or even another dev, and be like, wow, can you just sit back? You can really appreciate this for what it is.
Well, yeah, that's like, well, back to our early talking point with, Unreal Engine 5. As I showed you guys before the pod started, the new Halo that they're developing in Unreal Engine, that's all like hand drawn stuff. Like, they showed where the artists are going in and drawing like all the trees and all that, the branches, the leaves. And it looks amazing. Like you can tell it's a lot of passion put into it. If they want it to look good, they want it to stand out as a like, we're drawing this ourselves. Like this is not copy and paste. It's not AI generated. And that's going to, like you said, it's going to make that game stand out even years from now of like, this is just looks awesome.
So before we get into the polls and the question of the pod, I think it'd be good to ask this question and then we'll jump into that. But and this is a question for our listeners too. I really want to know what everyone's vibe in here with is if a piece of art in a game was created by a prompt from a developer in an AI chat, and then they took that prompt from AI and edited it into their own and then implemented that into the game, is it still considered AI art? In your opinion, in your does that question make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ask the question again.
So let's say I'm on the computer right now, right? And I'm going to type into Grok. I say, Grok, I'm thinking of adding a barrel to my game. I want it to be made of wood with possibly some other material put onto it. This is kind of what I'm thinking. Throw me some images. And it spits out 6 images. You take one of them, you put it into a sprite, and you edit it up into what you are really looking for, but AI helped you, and then you put that into your game. Is that still considered AI art in your opinion?
So I'm, kind of like the whole AI thing. I'm on the fence about it still. And to me, it like I've been saying, it's all on how you implement it. Like if you go in and like, hey, I'm just going to change the colors of this barrel and say, hey, it's mine. That's still AI art. I mean, that's just changing a color palette. That's not now like if you go in and like, okay, this is a barrel, and then we're gonna, add some metal rings around it, and we're gonna make the wood look broken. Put the hole in it for like, the older style looking wooden barrels. Maybe crack this piece of wood and make it look like it's broke off. Like that's changing it up to the point where it's not an exact copy. But no, like if you use AI to like say make you a framework for a house, then you add on to that house like all the details of the windows and the walls and like, the brick structure on the outside, and you just use that core like layout to get an idea. I don't think that's considered AI art because you just used a base design and then built off of it. It's technically no different than looking at a picture of a house, like, in real life and then making it into a video game house. It's like just you're changing it to fit what you need. You're not copying the exact same thing that you were given.
No, I love it, dude. Yeah, I mean, obviously, no wrong answers here at all. It's more of a curiosity thing, and I would stand with you on that hill. I would say, in my opinion, and this is going because there's a lot of other game companies and game studios that are doing this. They're putting things as placeholders from AI, and then they take it and they edit it up and they make it their own, and then they implement it into the game. But even some people are crying about that, and I don't mean it in a ill-mannered way of saying that, but I mean there are a lot of people that are saying that are not happy about that, right? And in my opinion, I have no issues with that if you used it to help gather the thoughts in your head together to make a clear picture, and you take it and you're like, yes, I can see it now, and you start messing with it and edit it up and you make it your own and implement it into your game. I think that's your own. I don't think that's AI art.
Yeah, I mean, like as somebody who draws also, like there are times where you'll be like, I have an idea of what I want, but I don't know how I want it to look. Like I can't make it look right. Like you can picture it like, I want this, and this, but I don't know where to start. So if you use AI to just get that general idea, you're like, okay, I can build off of this. And
Yep.
and then you turn it into what you want.
Absolutely.
I have one question. That initial barrel that you were asking about, what happens to it after you've altered and made it your own artwork?
I'm not sure what you mean. I would just put it in the game.
No, I mean what? So I'll ask it a different way.
Okay.
That initial template that was given to you by Grok or whatever AI generated service that you used, you built and made that your own. What happens to the original image? Is it visible anymore, or did you pretty much overlay what you wanted? In essence, deleting that AI generated barrel in the first place.
Yeah. It trashed because
Then
I
it's
don't.
yours.
Yeah.
I
'Cause
mean,
I don't.
yeah. I mean, people trace all the time, right? Doing artwork. How do like when you have these developers like Cuphead? You guys just mentioned Cuphead. They're not. I mean, they might be freehanding a lot of things, but when they're doing frame by frame, they might be using the original picture or the previous picture they drew as a template to start with the next frame, correct? I mean, it's essentially the same thing, I
Yeah.
think. You're just using something as a template to build an object that's not going to be the finished product. You're just using that to build. I don't think, I believe that would be your artwork. Versus you going and say, hey, build me this barrel, and be like, hey, that looks great. Implemented. No alteration, no editing, no nothing. And I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of. And
Yeah.
that's where you kind of lose that soul, right? I mean, Kronos seemed big on art. Big on art. You know, and really good artwork on your YouTube channel as well. I mean, that's kind of a flair of who you are. That's showing some of your soul. If it's AI
And
generated,
yeah, well, like you were saying too. I mean, I'll admit some of the stuff, it is kind of traced in a way. Like I'll use like for like some of the thumbnails, like I think it was the repo. I'll just say that repo. I was trying to draw the bot, but I couldn't make it look right. So I literally just took their base image of their bot and traced it, and then I started modifying it from there for each little thing that I needed, changing the colors, the shading, the eyes. Just I used that base idea and then built off of it to make it my
there you
own
go.
like
Yeah.
design, and it worked. It's made some pretty decent thumbnails with that.
So I fail to see the difference between what you did and what Neumatix is asking. It's
True.
fundamentally.
Right. Yeah. At its core, Yeah. I mean, I agree with that 100%. And, I asked this question because there's a lot of people out there that feel that no, it is still AI. Everyone has their opinions about it, but it's nice to hear everyone's opinion on it, especially with you guys, to kind of get the gist of like, are we all kind of sitting, are more people sitting on this edge of the boat or the other edge of the boat, And I think that the same goes with how you were saying, Kronos, like with your art, or you said, Maz, with if you just copy paste it, as someone's going to call you out on it, because just like with art, or just like with coding, I was saying how every developer out there probably codes a different way, and it's almost like your fingerprint. It's like your fingerprint on the way you develop, on the way you code. It's the same way for art. If Kronos goes and makes a thumbnail, and like half of the thumbnail is what his fingerprint on his art, what it always usually looks like. And the other half is a copy paste of AI. People are going to call it out like, whoa, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look like Kronos' work. I think that's something you'll be able to spot right away. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and get into the question of the pod. So over on our Discord, we asked, what's more important for an indie game? Aiming for AAA level polish or focusing on unique gameplay and style? Obviously, we covered this earlier in this episode, but we had a couple people answer over on the Discord, and one of them was Nilet. Nilet Inc. They go, any game that has polished gameplay and style, retract that. Any game has to have polished gameplay and style to stand out in modern gaming, but that's just my opinion. And then we also have Yemi. They go, I prefer an indie game to stand out and be as unique as possible. It's far too often that an indie strives to be like the latest AAA whatever and falls flat. So a bit of differing opinions there between Nilet and Yemi. Nilet saying that you need to have this polish and be more modernized in order to stand out. And Yemi's saying, no, I want an indie to step back from that and just do what indies do right. So I can see both sides of the coin there. And as we've stated throughout the podcast episode, I think we're on the same page as that, is that there are tools out there that allow indies to reach that level of AAA quality. It also, in the same manner, allows them to use the tools to do what they need to do, continue their passion projects to make it unique as possible, You guys agree?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with both sides. I mean, I'm gonna stick to what I've been saying. It's like the whole neutral. You got to find a middle ground, because to me, it's like you want a game to be really polished, but you want it to be unique. You want like a little bit of both. Like you don't want 100% in one area and 100% in the other, because that's impossible. You're never gonna get that in gaming. It's just not happening. But like if you can get that balance of like, hey, this game looks really good, it plays really good, and it has a really good storyline, then that's gonna make it stand out more than like, hey, the game looks really good, but it plays horrible. Like that's
Yeah, dude.
I think it needs to be a balance. That's me personally. Is that it needs to be a middle ground.
You on the same boat, Maz?
I think it goes back to what we were saying. Are indie developers being too ambitious? I don't think so. I think that's what makes them. I think that's probably the most important thing, that goes with this. It puts them against or differentiates them from their AA, AAA counterparts is the ability to have their own identity. And you know what? To be honest with you, I said that I'm a graphics hound. That polish is important to me as well. But I think it's charm, its originality that I think sets it apart. And I think that's what's the most important, even over graphics, is its own charm. We use Ruffy in the Riverside. We've talked about it a ton because we met with the developer. We just finished playing the game. That is what's really, really awesome with that, is that it's got great graphics. It's got a great story. It's got soul. And I think that is more important. Having that unique gameplay and style, the swap mechanics, the story, the way that the artwork flows, that's more important, I think, than just AAA level polish.
Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely. All right, cool. Thank you so much, Yemi and Nihilate, for answering over in the Discord. As always, if you guys want to answer in on the question of the pod when we go ahead and throw it up in the Discord, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But if you want to go ahead and get in on the discussion, be sure to by joining the Discord. All right, now on to the poll. It was a very easy poll, very much set in the absolute. So the poll went over in Discord and over on X. We asked, if a game has AI generated content, does it turn you away from wanting to play it, no matter how good that game is? And of course, you had the options of yes, no, or I don't really care either way. So going over to the poll, it was a dominating vote of no, that the AI generated content does not turn away the average gamer who voted on this. And we had a couple people that actually wanted to dive in on it even more. And a couple of those. So we had Yemi again. He goes, dealing in absolutes. No, I would not be turned away from a game using some AI generation content, much like Clear Obscure had some random generated images throughout for the minor stuff. But if the game is overly AI generated, where it is the most noticeable thing about it, then I'm very much turned away. Maz was playing a card game on stream today, and all the images for the cards were AI. That just screams lazy as opposed to assisting the developer.
That's the card Rotini game I was talking about. That damn game. That was a horrible game. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was about to say that you just talked about that.
Oh, disgusting. Disgusting.
Yeah. So, I mean, it goes to show. I love that ending part Yemi puts. That just screams lazy as opposed to assisting the developer. And I looked that up. So, Clear Obscure Expedition 33 did use some AI generation for placeholders in their game, and then later on patched it out. So there is no longer any sort of AI generation of the game that they speak of, because just in general, before we get onto some of the other answers here over the poll, if listeners didn't know, developers do not have to state whether or not their game has AI generation in it, unless they're over on Steam, and then they do have a box that they have to state if they have or not. But there's nothing holding them to say if they're telling the truth or not. So just putting that out there, that even though a game says it doesn't have AI generation, it could if they're not truthful about it. But little tidbit facts. Anyways, on to the next. We have Nihilate. Nihilate goes, well, since Yemi is voicing, I feel encouraged to explain. I'm never going to mind AI here and there. Little pieces in the background or the HUD are just a sign of the times, but when the game is dependent on AI generation, it's going to be a no. It's a lazy, half blank way to do anything. Very nice, Nihilate. Very nice. I agree.
Again, we don't want to rely on AI to do it for us. Okay for it to assist, help with the coding. I mean, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for AI generated images. I'm not looking for videos. I just mentioned it earlier. You can tell when something is AI generated. I mean, it's not to the point yet where it can really fool us. I mean, there's some out there that's like, wow, this is pretty incredible. But for the level of stuff that we're doing in video games, you're going to be able to tell. And that's a huge deterrent for me. That's a turnoff for me.
Yeah, even with what Kronos said earlier, it's like, if the freaking backdrop, if the very far out background is AI generated, I don't care. That's just something that you don't even interact with in the world, and it's something that AI can generate something that looks beautiful for the background. That's cool, but if it's done throughout heavily throughout the entire game, then yeah, obviously it's going to be an issue.
Yes.
All right, so the last one here we got from Vault. They say, so one of my favorite games, Genshin Impact, has had a voice actor strike due to the use of AI. It's been going on for about 5 months now. If you're using AI for voicing, I don't want anything to do with you or your game. Maybe I'm traditional, but I hate that AI has gotten so good at some human stuff. Luckily, Genshin hasn't gotten to the point where their art is AI generated. And if that does happen, it'll be 30,000 hours down the drain because I refuse to play it. Wow, dude. That's like the hottest discussion post from this. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I get what he says 100%. Now we're getting into the realm of laziness. I don't want to hear your AI generated voices. I mean, you hear it all the time on friggin' TikTok and these damn shorts, the same 4 friggin' voices. I mean, seriously, that really pisses me off just to hear that. And everybody uses the same freaking voices. I caught myself, boys.
Save that one.
Yeah, they use the same voices, and it seriously drives me up the wall. I will tell you, every time I hear one of those voices, I don't watch it. I'm done with it. And I'll be damned if I'm going to play a game where those voices eke into the game that I'm playing. No, I'm 100% in Vault's corner on this. I will not play a game that does that. Yeah, and then what else are you doing? You're taking money out of a voice actor's pocket as well. Let's not be so greedy that is a thing. I can see AAA studios doing that, AA studios maybe. I can't see indie developers doing that. Maybe to bridge a gap temporarily if they're short on funds, put it in early access, then get some money up and then hire an actor to redo it and patch. But even that, I think, is crossing a line. I'm 100%. I love Vault's response to this. I think that's fantastic.
Dude, it's nuts thinking, dude. If they start doing it with the art, 30,000 hours down the drain, that's someone who's hardcore loving that game. And if they do that, it's like a stab in the heart. You've just turned your back on me. I'm done with you. Oh man, so crazy. The absolute in that, But I understand. I 100% understand.
So I do agree with you, like pretty good on that one. 'Cause back to what I said about the neutral ground. Like if you're gonna use AI for a voice, make it something that's relatable. Like if it's a robot at a bar or something, or a robot that you're talking to, I could see an AI voice for that because it's a little more able to emulate that style of a voice. But to me, it's like I'm old school with like games. I love those voice actors that have that voice that stands out. Like I would never play Halo as much as I have if it was AI generated voice for Master Chief. Like, Steve Downs is just that sound and that natural human voice that just fits that character so well that it brings you back time and time again. Like, for example, Gears of War, John DiMaggio as the voice actor for Marcus Phoenix. You couldn't replace that with an AI voice and make it stick like it has. And, straying a little off the subject, I'm a big anime fan. Those voice actors get so into it that it makes the show in the games, back into the games. It just makes them feel more real. Like it feels like feel the emotions and stuff from it. And AI is not able to replicate that at all.
So I have a bit of a differing opinion. Don't hate me for it. So I think that if it comes to a big RPG or an MMO from a AAA studio, I could see them using this to, like, you imagine having every single NPC being voice acted. It's going to cost the company so much to get so many voice actors and new schedules and everything, whatever it may be, in order to get every single one. But if they were able to streamline it and use maybe all the NPCs, but all the NPCs are AI generated voiced, but all of the main characters are voice acted, I could see companies going that route. I could also see companies going, hey, like the guy who voiced Marcus Phoenix from Gears, you said, hey, really liked your voice, would love to use your voice in my next game for this character. Would you mind if I use your voice? I have the AI that can generate your voice. Could I use it? And I'd pay you a licensing fee to use your voice. I could see that happening too, because let's be honest, we can't pretend that AI isn't going to be good enough at some point to also replicate emotion and the strength that comes through from other voice actors. It's going to happen. At some point, it's going to be just as good. Just like all this other AI that's coming out for everything else being used as tools is going to be just as good for developers as well, you know? I just think that at some point it's going to be a mix. I think a lot of games are going to have a mix of voice. I mean, you think about it even now, like, have you guys ever tried the voice from like any of the newer AI models? Like even Grok, if you go and talk to Grok and its different voices, or here, even better put, you ever heard of, using AI a voice changer? You want to sound like Batman. You want to sound like Goku from Dragon Ball Z. You want to sound like all these other different characters. You download that. You have the AI change your voice from your mic to that. And all of a sudden, wow, you sound just like the character. I think there's multiple ways of this tool being used. And I think it's just inevitable that it's going to happen. And at some point, you won't even be able to tell a difference. Now, you would think, in my opinion, I don't think that's going to be such a factor for indies, and I don't think it's going to be such a factor for double A's, but triple A's I could see captivating on this 100% for their really big games that they're trying to come out with.
Now, see, on I'm just gonna add to that one though. One thing I do know, how you were saying like all the NPCs and stuff in the background.
Yeah.
A lot of times, from what I've seen, like with your triple A's, like Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed and all that stuff, they use team members as the voices. Like
Yeah.
like your other, your level designer, your costume designer, your the people who play tested. They'll use all those people inside the business as the extra voices. And see, to me, I still see it as like the AI is taking away from that aspect too, of like, hey, people could be like, wait a minute, this character sounds like you. But then it's like, if you use AI for it, it's like it takes away those moments.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. And I'm not arguing the point that it's way more, I think it hits more with a player if they know that, right? If it's coming from a general person on the team, or, it's a game that you really love and you find that out, you're like, wow, that's really cool that they actually use people from the team to voice those characters. But I don't think that's for every game. I don't think that's a thing for every game. And I think it could be beneficial for other games as well. All right. Yeah. So I think that pretty much wraps it up, guys. That was a lot of fun. Some spicy subjects we got into. And I think we all really enjoyed diving deep into these segments. I know our Discord community did as well. And as I always say, I've probably mentioned it at least 5 times today. If you haven't already, jump into the Discord. We'd love to have you there, and we'd love to speak with you more on these spicy subjects and to get your input on it as well. But until then, I want to let our listeners know as well, if you didn't know, we release an episode every Thursday at 5 a.m. Central Time, 6 a.m. Eastern Time for my co-hosts, Kronos and Maz, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys!
That's a wrap.
See you later.